What became of it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't be interested in a documentary about me at all.
But your background, how is it? It's a remarkable background, really, isn't it? I mean, your Hollywood connection.
Well, yeah. I mean, other people find that remarkable. I suppose it is remarkable that a child from Bohermore can end up there in that awful place where everybody's beholden to somebody. And I hate being beholden to anybody, so I didn't fit in there very well. When I went to England, when I fled to England when I was 18 years of age, starving with holes in my shoes, and I came from a respectable family, I want to tell you, but we still starved respectably. And when I fled this country, as thousands did like me in the 50s, you go to the station at Galway, there are 300-400 people on the platform, people crying, wailing, screaming. It was like the Wailing Wall of people emigrating, because when you went down, they didn't come back, most of them. But I went, and full up with, the dark power of the church, all the rest of it. Now, that has become a cliche, but I love churches and synagogues and all that kind of thing. So I'm kind of religious by nature. But I found myself when I got to England, the first awakening I had was when I got off the boat at Liverpool at 6 o'clock in the morning, rainy morning, didn't know where I was, by myself, no money. I met a man on the boat, actually a farmer, who'd sold up his farm because he couldn't support his 6 children on this bit of land. And he gave me £1. I'll never forget it. That was a lot of money. As I was getting off the boat, he said, if you have no money, I have some money. And he gave me this £1. And I walked up the street in Liverpool, and I went into this cafe, as they call it. And the first thing, this very cheerful girl came up to me and said, "Hello, darling, what can I do for you?" I thought, Jesus, these people they're supposed to hate us, the Irish and the English and all that. And I couldn't get over it, how friendly she was. And I sat down at a table, and this guy said to me, "Hey, just off the boat, mate." I said, yeah. He said, "Well, I hope you do. Don't stay here," he said to me. "You'd better off to go to Manchester." And they're completely outgoing and no messing, like friendly beyond my expectations. But I mean, there are more interesting things. I fished with the Indians for 3 years by an ancient method called reef netting, which permitted Indians to fish at any time they wanted to, provided they used what were called usual and ancient methods. And I fished with them. And, I lived in the woods and built a cabin, decided to go for the simple life. But to live the simple life, you have to be simple. I discovered freedom is an inside job. Nobody can set you free. I always knew that. If I was going to be free, it had to be me, right? And I had to follow my star. I had to follow this prompting. The first day I worked in Hollywood, the thing came to me, "This place stinks. Everybody is beholden to somebody here." I lived with Tippy Hedren, man, and her husband, Tippy, the birds and all that. And I saw how they lived. They were terrified every time the phone rang. I suppose, to put it crudely, I'd rather fuck myself up than have Hollywood do it, I dreaded that place. It was a terrible place.
For most of us, it's kind of a...
It is,
it's a scary,
because you see...
life, Mark, bedding down in a shop doorway, in the winter in Galway,
Yeah, but that's not all there is to it, you see.
Yeah.
That's now you wake up in the morning and then suddenly you meet people who are kind. And like yourself. When I was drinking, you always greeted me. You never thought I was different or anything like that. And that keeps your faith going. Now, this isn't a conscious thing, but the little kindnesses that you get from people more than make up for the sleeping in the doorway and shivering your nuts off and end up in the hospital in casualty and all that. Because in my heart of hearts, I always knew this is a good thing. That what's happening here is a good thing. Once and for all, you've rid yourself of any illusion of the fact that you can make pact. And when that happens, when it's just you, and you can't point the finger anymore, you can't blame anybody, not even the goddamn hypocritical society, because killing yourself with drink is not actually an adequate response to a hypocritical society. It was. I fell into it. You know, I didn't volunteer for this. Yeah. And you talk about dark nights of the soul. I'm here to tell you, man. When your first thought in the morning is, where am I going to sleep tonight? How am I going to wake up being kicked in the ribs by a shopkeeper? Me and Dennis Conley were sleeping in his doorway and threw our shoes away. And all that. So finally, I hadn't drank since I was 24 years of age. Now, I take exception to being called an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm only an alcoholic when I drink. The founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson, said, when we stop drinking, we are pretty much like other folks, and we just get on with our lives. I stopped drinking when I was 24, and I resumed drinking when I was 56. And I resumed drinking out of disappointment with my own efforts to make whatever deal I had to make with this society, my own failings of being unable to sustain a marriage due to a variety of faults of my own, etc., etc. I suppose if I would, you know, what dogged me all my life was I had, there you go. Now there's a drunk. That's a real drunk. You know, me. Because you're listening to a man who couldn't make pact with a society as he perceived it. I had great jobs, man. I went into Hollywood at the top, worked right down at the bottom, didn't I? Because I couldn't make truck with that particular kind of devil. I couldn't make pact with that kind of thing. I had great jobs until I discovered that I worked for companies whose only policy was more, more, more. We want more, and we want more, and we want more. Yeah, 5 winters, and I knew that if another winter and I was dead. There was no question about it. And but I came to see that, in a way, you know, freedom is another word for nothing left to lose. I had to be in the place where I had nothing left to lose. I had nothing left to lose. I had no job left to lose, no family to lose, blah, blah. Now, I'm lucky, because I didn't bring my own disaster to the feet of my family. I never went to my sisters, my brothers, said, you know, that bollocks, you know. I was lucky in that way that I was able to sort of plow my furrow without alienating everybody around me. You know, I have beautiful children and grandchildren now, and you knew Anne, my late wife, and all that. So I was kind of lucky. But, oh, it was painful, man. It was terrible. And you kind of, you know, you get stoned and wrecked and find a place. You throw yourself any place. You tend to try to look for safe places where assholes won't kick you in the ribs as they go home at night. I had a bottle of Buckfast. And when you live in the street, you form the habit of never drinking alone. The only one who liked to drink alone was Dennis. I always liked to have companionship. Had a bottle of Buckfast, had some money too. And for some reason I couldn't find anybody. I couldn't find the lads. It was a freezing night. I was walking down Church Lane, and suddenly I heard in my head, I always get suspicious when I hear people saying this, but it's a good thing to tell it because it allows for the possibility for other people. And the voice said, is this the way you want it? Is this the legacy you want to leave to your children and your grandchildren? That you were found dead in the street from drinking? And straight away, the answer came back, no, it isn't. I put the bottle of Buckfast on a ledge, walked out of the lane, went into like 6 months of withdrawal, the likes of which I never thought possible. Now, I still lived in the street. I still went around with the lads. I was still in the Fairgreen hostel. But slowly and slowly, I thought, right, man, you've given back your life for some reason, you know, so get it together. I mean, I had 2 horrible years, I have to tell you, of the blackest depression I ever thought possible, you know. It is, somebody pays you a kindness. People don't realize what small kindnesses mean. They just throw them around like confetti, like. But when a person is desperate, when a person is really lost, as Cooper says, buried above the ground, and somebody greets you and chats to you and asks you, would you like a cup of coffee? They don't know, like, that you're down there. All of those little things. You see, I never made the mistake of isolating myself. I knew you isolate yourself with this man and you ain't coming back. I mean, I knew that you had to get up, you had to go out, you had to walk, wherever, meet people, be around people. I knew that. And it's the kindness and goodness of people who, even if you've lost faith in yourself, they haven't lost faith in you. When you've lived in the street, no matter how long you're off it, every time you're wandering around, you're looking for places to squat. You just have that kind of thing in you, and you think, gee, that'll be all right.
And you think it still exists, Mark? It's just that it's more hidden now. And like you were saying, there was a cultural change that the merchants wanted you off the streets. That's why you called your documentary
Clear the Streets. Well, they're the ones who put in the headline. John is the last man standing. He's down Quay Street every night, sitting there opposite the pub, shouting at people and doing his thing. And as I talk about it in Clear the Streets, actually, where John and I are talking together, with me sober as I am now, and he as he still is. And people don't realize that John has a beautiful wife and 2 children in Finland. They don't know anything about that. And that's the thing I learned too, that I have to look behind, even the people I despise and who are, in my estimation, hypocrites. I have to look behind that and think, well, what else is going on? And you'll find, everybody is, chewing on a bone of some kind or another. For me, if I can't substitute anger with compassion, I'm a dead man. And I learned that through being homeless in the street. Try to shine the light of compassion on it when I can, and that's better for me. But I've kind of been blessed too, because once I threw off the chains which I'd put on myself, things kind of happened for me, I got this beautiful place. My health was wrecked, of course, through living in the street. And that's taken care of now, and I'm very blessed. But I had that moment of truth, and it comes to people, and if they pass it by, it's over.
The family, the whole family.
We are Muslim.
Yeah.
We were not.
The Irish are great, man. The Irish are great at putting each other down, Yeah. The Galway wing of the Labour Party has slammed what it describes as the hysterical anti-homeless people campaign, and claims that this has been generated by sections of the local press and certain business elements in the city. A hard-hitting statement issued this week by the Galway West Labour Party Constituency Council claims that recent local press reports and comments have amounted to outrageous attacks on those very people most in need.
Jerry.
This is Jerry. Just a few weeks after the making of this film, this man was found dead in Eyre Square. He had died of exposure. He had been evicted from his flat.
Being surrounded for the most part, by intimidated people who'd swallowed the authorities' version of events. All of us were kind of caught out in a way, and we have to deal with that. Some guys and women got too much love and other people didn't get enough, and some people had no home to live and other people had a home that was too big. So that kind of thing, And we have to deal with ourselves always.